Welcome, sleepy soul. Tonight, I'm your storyteller, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that, too. For a little over 3 years now, I've been working as a barista. It's not glamorous, and I never imagined myself steaming milk and pulling espresso shots as a long-term career. But it paid the rent, and more importantly, it gave me enough stability to focus on what I really wanted to do: content. More specifically, TikTok. It started as a side hobby 2 years ago. At first, my videos were just me trying out trending sounds in my bedroom or showing off latte art at the coffee shop. They barely got any views, but I kept at it. Every day I posted, sometimes 2 or 3 times, experimenting with different styles until something stuck. And then one morning, I woke up to see one of my videos had hit 200 views overnight. My notifications wouldn't stop. New followers were pouring in by the hundreds. I had no idea why that video blew up, but once it did, others followed. Slowly, my follower count grew. 5,000, 10,000, and as of last week, 50,000. I know compared to the TikTok giants with millions of followers, 50K isn't much, but for me, it's massive. I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could eventually quit my coffee shop job and make content full-time. But that dream comes with a dark side, because along with every sweet comment, every "you're so inspiring" message came the other kind. The kind you don't forget. At first, it was just a few creepy comments mixed in with the good ones. Stuff about my appearance, inappropriate innuendos, people asking for my private Snapchat. I rolled my eyes and ignored them. But as my follower count grew, so did the percentage of comments that made my skin crawl. And lately, it's like 20% of my comments are straight up disgusting. People telling me what they'd like to do to me, demanding that I start an OnlyFans, some even describing it in graphic detail. I'd delete some, but honestly, I felt like I couldn't block or ban too many people. Engagement is engagement. TikTok's algorithm doesn't care what the comments say, only that they exist. So I told myself I'd get used to it, that they were just words on a screen. But then, they started spilling into my DM. At best, they were guys asking me out in this over-the-top, "you're the love of my life" way. At worst, they were threatening, and not in a "you're ugly" way. In a "you won't live to see your next post" way. One person in particular stood out. He went by the name Jonas True on TikTok. At first, Jonas was just another overenthusiastic fan. He commented on every single one of my videos. No exaggeration, every one. And within minutes of me posting, my DM would light up with his messages. "You looked perfect in that. I'd tip you $100 if I could see you in person. I bet the coffee shop gets a lot of business just because you work there." Creepy, yes, but still in that ignore and move on territory. Until it wasn't. One night after a live stream, Jonas sent me a message that made me stop cold. "How's the maple latte at Harbor and Bean? That's my coffee shop." I'd never once mentioned the name online. I stared at the screen for a good minute before typing back. "Me, how do you know where I work?" "Jonas, I have my ways." I didn't answer. A pit started forming in my stomach. Maybe it was a lucky guess. Maybe he lived in the same city and just happened to know. Then 2 days later, he sent another DM. "Do you still park your blue Civic by the back fence, or are you using the front lot now?" My heart dropped. I hadn't posted anything even hinting at my car. Things escalated quickly after that. Jonas started sending me my own address, apartment number included. He listed the make, model, and year of my car. He even quoted my license plate number. "I could take your mail anytime I wanted," one message read. I'd already been suspicious because my mailbox had been empty for days, even though I knew bills were due to arrive. Now I knew why. I didn't want to block him, not yet. If he really was dangerous, I wanted to keep the messages as evidence for the police. And honestly, part of me was scared that blocking him would just make him angrier. Around this time, I had also been doing more live streams. My setup was always the same. My phone propped on my desk, the big window with beige curtains in the background. During a few streams, I started noticing something odd. Out of the corner of my eye, a tiny green dot would flash across the curtain just for a second, then vanish. It looked exactly like the dot from a laser pointer. I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe some neighborhood kid was messing around outside, but then I realized it only ever happened while I was live. Never before, never after. By the second week of Jonas's threats, I wasn't sleeping. I'd sit in bed staring at the window, half expecting to see a silhouette outside. My hands would shake every time I took the trash out. One night, I convinced myself to just make it to morning, then I'd go to the police. But when I stepped outside the next day, my stomach turned to ice. Every single window of my Civic had been smashed. Not just one, all of them. Glass glittered across the pavement. The seats were covered in shards. I called the police right there on the sidewalk. They came, they took a report, but with no witnesses, no cameras, and no physical evidence beyond your windows are broken. They said there wasn't much they could do. I swept out the glass and drove, freezing air blasting through the holes, to an auto glass shop. It cost me more than I wanted to spend, but I got them all replaced. Then I went straight to the hardware store and bought a security camera. I mounted it to face my parking spot. I told myself it would make me feel safer. 2 days later, I woke up to déjà vu. Every window smashed again. Only this time, my license plate was gone. I ran back inside and pulled up the footage. My hands shook as I hit play. At 3:14 a.m., a dark sedan pulled into the lot. A man stepped out, hood up, gloves on, and walked straight to my car. No hesitation. He smashed the windows one by one, yanked off the plate, then calmly got back in his own car and drove away. The camera had caught everything, including his license plate. I gave the footage to the police. A week later, they called. They'd arrested him. His real name was Ethan Carter. He lived less than 15 minutes from me. And yes, he was Jonas True. But what really froze my blood was learning how he'd found me. According to the police, Ethan would watch my TikTok lives and shine a green laser pointer at every apartment window in my complex until he saw it show up on my curtain. Then he'd figured out which unit it was. The rest, my car, my mailbox, came easy to him once he knew where I lived. Ethan was charged with stalking, vandalism, and multiple other offenses. His bail was set high enough that for now he's in jail. But I don't feel safe because I know there are more Jonases out there, and some of them might already be watching from the other side of the screen. I never thought a quick grocery run would end like this. I wasn't planning to be out long. Just milk, bread, maybe some fruit. Nothing that should have taken more than 20 minutes. But that day, I'd been moving slow all afternoon, like my body was caught in syrup. Every step felt heavy. I'd been working from home all week, editing short-form videos for my freelance clients, and I hadn't left the apartment in 3 days. My social life lately had been TikTok duets, comment threads, and late-night live. The last actual conversation I'd had with a person in real life was with the delivery guy 3 nights ago. That's the thing about freelancing. Sometimes you blink and realize you haven't spoken out loud to anyone all day. It makes you start talking to yourself, which I had been doing while I shoved my phone and wallet into my tote bag. Milk, bread, fruit. I mumbled in and out, no distractions. I slid on my sneakers, locked the door to my third-floor apartment in a faded red brick building in Everett, Washington, and headed down the stairs. The air outside was heavy, the kind of damp cold that seeps through your sweater. My street was quiet, too quiet for a Thursday at 6 p.m., but Everett always had little pockets like that. Still, I noticed him almost immediately. A guy standing on the opposite corner, hoodie pulled up, face down, perfectly still. I figured he was just waiting for someone. Cities are full of weird stand guys. I crossed the street, glanced both ways, and told myself not to be dramatic. I passed the small laundromat, the taqueria that never seemed to have customers, and turned left. 2 blocks later, I glanced back. There he was. Same hoodie, same way of standing, just there. I slowed my steps for half a second. Could be a coincidence. Maybe he just happened to be heading the same direction. I picked up the pace anyway. By the time I reached the neighborhood supermarket, a bright-lit, slightly too small place called Harbor Groceries, I could feel a pressure in my chest. Not fear, not yet, but something tightening. The kind of sensation that feels like a warning. Inside, the air was warmer, softer, full of the faint smell of coffee from the cafe in the corner. An acoustic cover of some 2000s pop song played over the speakers. I forced myself to slow down in the produce section, filling a paper bag with apples I didn't actually need, and then he walked in. Same hoodie, no cart, no basket, just standing near the entrance, looking around. I told myself not to look directly at him, just kept moving. But every time I turned into another aisle, I could feel it, his presence behind me. When I paused by the pasta, he walked past close enough that the sleeve of his hoodie almost brushed mine. He was holding a bag of chips, barbecue flavor, just one bag, nothing else. I glanced at it, my brain trying to file the moment away. Something about the way he held it like it was an accessory, not a snack. I looped through the frozen section to lose him, stopped for too long, pretending to read labels. 5 minutes later, he was there, still holding the same chips, still not looking at anything else. That was when my skin started prickling. I ducked into the drinks aisle, bent down to look at a lower shelf, and caught his reflection in the glass refrigerator door. He was tilting his head, watching me like a person watching an animal in a cage. I stood up fast, heart thudding. I'd had enough. I left the aisle and headed toward the front. The security guard was leaning on the counter, mid-40s, beard starting to gray. "Excuse me, there's a man following me." I blurted, my voice already too high. He came in right after me. He's been in every aisle I've gone to. The guard straightened up, scanning the store. Where? I turned to point. He wasn't there. I felt heat rising in my face. He was just by the freezer section holding a bag of chips. Lots of people buy chips. The guard said with a shrug. I wanted to scream. "Please, can you just check the cameras? I swear I'm not imagining this." "That's not my call," he said. "You're probably just stressed." My chest tightened. I backed away from him, grabbed a bottle of water from the checkout cooler, and ordered an Uber before I'd even paid. The ride home was silent. The driver didn't talk, and I was grateful for it. My jaw hurt from clenching. I kept checking the side mirrors. When I finally got home, I locked the door, bolted it, and checked every closet, under every bed. Paranoid, maybe. It was quiet. Too quiet. I set the shopping bag on the kitchen counter, took a deep breath, and headed toward my room to change. That's when I saw it. On the table next to my water bottle was a half-open pack of barbecue chips, the same kind he'd been holding. I hadn't bought them. I hadn't touched them. My knees went weak. My throat went dry. The bag was crumpled like someone had been eating from it. He had been here, not just tonight. Before, watching, waiting, I backed away, my breath shallow. I didn't even hear him coming, just felt it. A slam from the side. My shoulder exploded in pain as I crashed into the glass shelf. Shards cutting into my leg. I screamed. He was there, the man from the store, same hoodie, same dead eyes, but now smiling, not speaking, not blinking, just watching me bleed. I grabbed the nearest thing, a chair, and hurled it at him. It clattered against the wall. He didn't even flinch. I dragged myself toward the hallway. His footsteps followed, steady, patient. I found a jagged piece of glass, wet with my blood, and gripped it. When he reached for me, I slashed. His hand erupted in red. His scream was low, furious. I scrambled to the front door, fumbling with the lock. He lunged, but the door flew open, and I stumbled out into the night, screaming for help. My neighbor, watering his plants across the fence, froze. The hose hit the grass as he ran toward me. The man in the hoodie stepped back into my apartment, then bolted through the back. The police came fast. They took my statement, collected the bloody glass, checked the locks, picked clean. He'd done it before. They never caught him that night, but the store cameras had his face, and I posted mine on TikTok because I wanted everyone to see what he looked like. I never thought I'd end up living out here. For most of my 20s, I bounced between cheap apartments, noisy walls, leaky pipes, neighbors who blasted music at 3:00 in the morning. I told myself that if I just kept my head down, worked hard, and saved, I'd eventually find somewhere quiet, somewhere mine. When I finally signed the papers for the house, it didn't feel real. It sat about a mile outside of a little town called Crowden, Indiana. Not even big enough for a stoplight. My place was small but solid. 2 bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, a back deck that looked out over a stretch of open field. Out here, you didn't get rows of houses stacked together. My nearest neighbor's place was maybe 200 feet away across the field. It was an older farmhouse, chipped paint, porch sagging slightly, the kind of place you could imagine in an old photograph. When I moved in that May, the farmhouse looked abandoned. No lights at night, no cars in the driveway, just an empty shell sitting under the summer sky. For weeks, it stayed that way. It was the 3rd Saturday in June when I saw her for the first time. I was out back staining the deck rail when a flash of movement in the farmhouse caught my eye. In the upstairs window, a woman stood framed against the sunlight. She was maybe mid-20s, long black hair tied up in a messy bun. She held a phone up in one hand, angled toward her face, and she was gesturing almost like she was miming something. At first, I thought she was on a video call, but there was something off about it. Her movements were too exaggerated, dramatic expressions pointing at something off screen, and the whole time she was looking straight toward my house. I gave a quick wave, more out of politeness than anything. She didn't wave back. She lowered the phone for a moment, tilted her head slightly, and then turned away. That night, after a long day of unpacking, I was lying in bed scrolling through TikTok. I wasn't really paying attention, just letting the endless stream of clips wash over me. When I stopped dead, there she was. The username read at Harper Vale. In the video, she was reacting to one of those absurd life hack clips. You know, the ones where someone makes a sandwich using an iron or some other nonsense. She didn't speak, just stared at the camera, eyebrows raised, then gave a slow shake of the head. 7 seconds, nearly 200 likes, and she was wearing the same faded gray hoodie I'd seen earlier that afternoon. Over the next couple of weeks, I started noticing her more. In person, she was usually in that upstairs window, framed by the cold glow of a ring light. Sometimes she'd be outside, tripod set up, phone recording as she made those silent gestures. Online, her videos seemed to multiply. I didn't follow her, but the algorithm shoved her into my feed anyway. Different outfits, same format, reacting without speaking, letting her face do all the work. It got under my skin. I was pulling 60-hour weeks at the warehouse just to make ends meet. My hands ached from lifting boxes. My back hurt constantly. And this woman, this stranger across the field, was pulling in views and sponsorship deals for what? Raising an eyebrow at a phone. I told myself I didn't care, but I started catching myself looking toward her window more often, and more she was looking back. One Tuesday evening in July, I came home to find her setting up her tripod on the porch. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the grass. I hesitated, then called out, Hey, you're Harper, right? I think I've seen some of your videos. She turned toward me slowly. For a second, I thought she might smile, maybe wave, but instead she lifted her phone, aimed it squarely at me, and tapped the screen. It was like she was filming me. I just moved in across the way. I tried again. Namesily, she didn't reply, didn't even nod, just turned her back, adjusted the tripod, and started filming. I went inside feeling stupid. After that, it escalated. Sometimes in her videos, I'd spot the faint outline of my own house in the background, the shape of my porch light, the color of my siding. Once, I'm sure I saw my own reflection in her window glass. I stopped using TikTok for a while, thinking that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Some nights I'd catch her filming in the yard, lit stark white by that ring light, eyes fixed on me between takes. Other times I'd see her in the window, perfectly still, phone in hand, but not recording, just watching. It was early October, the first cold snap of the season. I'd gone to bed early, tired from a double shift when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. At first I thought it was just a branch brushing the siding, but then it came again, slower, deliberate. I sat up, heart thudding, and reached for the flashlight I kept beside the bed. When I pulled the curtain back, I froze. Harper was standing outside the glass, inches away. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. The pale glow of her phone lit her face from below. She didn't move when I shouted, didn't flinch. She just lifted the phone slightly and hit record. When I lunged forward, she was gone. 2 nights later, I came home from work to find my front door unlocked. The air inside felt wrong, still but heavy, like the moment before a thunderstorm. Upstairs, my bedroom curtain had been pulled back and tied. On my desk, my phone sat unlocked. The camera app was open, and in my gallery there was one new video, me asleep in bed. The camera was so close, I could see the rise and fall of my chest. In the background, faint but clear, was the sound of someone breathing, not me. I called the police. They searched her property. It was empty. Her furniture was gone. Her clothes, even the ring light, had been taken, leaving a pale circle on the dusty floor where it had stood. Her account vanished from TikTok the next day. I haven't seen her since, but every so often when I'm lying in bed, I hear it again. Tap, tap, tap. And I don't dare look. I never thought a phone screen could kill someone. Not in the too much screen time way parents warn about, but in the literal sense. The kind that leaves you staring at a casket, wondering if you could have done something, anything, to stop it. It was January of last year, a damp, gray stretch of winter in the small Oregon town of McKinley Falls. I'd been back from college for just a few months, crashing at my mom's house while I tried to figure out my next move. I was working part-time at a hardware store, saving up and wasting most of my evenings scrolling TikTok. That's how I knew about Nate before I really knew him. We'd gone to the same high school, but he'd been 2 grades ahead of me. The kind of guy who wasn't popular in the conventional way, but everyone knew him because he was always doing something weird or attention-grabbing. A skateboard jump over the school dumpster, eating an entire jar of jalapenos in the cafeteria, setting off fireworks in the football field bathroom, stuff that got him in trouble, but also made him this small-town legend. When TikTok blew up during the pandemic, Nate latched onto it like it was oxygen. His videos weren't huge at first, just small stunts, funny clips, dumb trends, but by the time he was 21, he had almost 200,000 followers. And that meant something here, in a place where the only other famous people were a minor league baseball player and the woman who baked the giant cinnamon rolls at the farmer's market. That night, the night everything went wrong, started like any other. I just finished a shift unloading lumber shipments and was sitting in my car in the parking lot, letting the heater run while I mindlessly scrolled my phone. That's when I got a text from Mia. Mia, party at Tyler's basement, come through. Tyler was one of those guys whose parents were either too trusting or too oblivious to realize what went on in their house. His basement was like the town's unofficial teen and 20-something clubhouse. Neon strip lights, second-hand couches, a crappy speaker system, and a fridge full of cheap sodas. I almost said no. I was tired, cold, and still in my work clothes. But Mia had been my best friend since middle school, and I hadn't been out in weeks. So I drove over. When I got there, the air inside was already thick with vape clouds and the smell of pizza grease. Music pulsed from the speakers, some bass-heavy rap track I didn't recognize, and maybe 20 people were crammed into the room, talking, laughing, scrolling on their phones. That's when I saw Nate. He was standing dead center, phone propped against a Bluetooth speaker, grinning like he was about to do something legendary. In his hand was a box of pink Benadryl blister packs. "All right," he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "y'all ready for the shadow dose?" A couple of people laughed, someone yelled, "Let's go," and a few others pulled out their phones. I frowned, stepping closer. "Shadow dose? What the hell is that?" Nate turned to me, eyes bright. "It's the Benadryl thing, but like full send. You take enough to trip hard. People see shadow people, talk to dead relatives, crazy stuff. I'm doing double the normal dose." "That's not a normal dose," I said. "That's dangerous as hell." He waved me off. "Relax, I've done my research." Mia leaned toward me. "He's been hyping this up for weeks. Says no one's gone as far as he's about to." I felt my stomach knot. I'd seen TikToks about this challenge before. Shaky videos of kids muttering nonsense, eyes wide like they'd seen a ghost, but the comments were always split. Half the people saying, "Lol, this is crazy," and the other half saying, "My cousin died doing this." "You're seriously going to live stream it?" I asked. "Duh," Nate said. "What's the point if no one sees it?" He started popping the pills out of their foil, a small pink mountain building on the table. Someone counted aloud as he swallowed them, washing them down with Mountain Dew. The whole room was watching now, the air buzzing with a weird mix of excitement and unease. At first, nothing happened. Nate sat back, scrolling his phone like nothing was wrong. 15 minutes passed. People started talking again. The music picked back up. I almost convinced myself it was fine. Then Nate laughed. It wasn't a normal laugh. It was high-pitched, breathless, like he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world, but couldn't explain it. "What?" someone asked. Nate's eyes darted around the room. "You guys don't see it." "See what?" He tilted his head like he was listening to something far away. "They're here." That made a few people glance at each other. The music faded to background noise. "Who's here, Nate?" I asked. His smile widened. "The ones behind the walls." Mia shifted uncomfortably beside me. "Okay, that's creepy." He stood up, moving slowly, eyes locked on a corner of the basement. "They're waving at me." At that point, Tyler stepped forward. "Maybe you should sit down, dude." Nate didn't react. He started muttering. Short, sharp phrases, none of which made sense. Then his voice rose. "Don't touch me." I said, "Don't." He screamed, a raw, guttural sound that cut through the bass and chatter like a blade. People froze, phones halfway up, expressions shifting from amused to unsettled. Nate's hands flew to his arms, clawing at his skin. "Get them off, they're under my skin." Before anyone could stop him, he bolted for the stairs. I was the first to follow, Mia right behind me. By the time we reached the kitchen, he was fumbling with the back door, breath coming in ragged gasps. He stumbled outside into the icy night air, barefoot, wearing only a hoodie and jeans. "Nate, stop." I called. He didn't. He kept moving toward the edge of Tyler's backyard, where the ground dropped off into a steep, rocky slope that led to the river. He turned to look at us, grinning, but it wasn't joy. It was hunger, desperation. I still can't name it. "I wonder if I can make it," he said softly. "Make what?" Mia asked across. He whispered, and before we could stop him, he stepped toward the edge. I grabbed his arm. "Nate, no." He jerked violently, almost pulling me with him. Tyler came from the side, tackling him to the frozen grass. That's when his body started convulsing. Foam bubbled at his lips, his eyes rolling back. Then, and I'll never forget this, he vomited a dark, thick stream that splattered across the snow. It wasn't just blood. It was almost black, like something had rotted inside him. People were screaming now. Mia was already on her phone with 911. I kept my hands on his shoulders, trying to keep him from slamming his head against the ground as his body thrashed. His fingernails raked the frozen dirt, and between choked breaths, he whispered, "They're still here." By the time the ambulance arrived, Nate wasn't breathing. The EMT tried chest compressions, a breathing mask, injections, but there was nothing to bring back. We stood there huddled in the snow while his phone, still propped up in the basement, kept live streaming an empty room. The videos went viral, clips of him laughing, clawing, whispering, millions of views, hashtags, duets, reaction videos. TikTok eventually took them down, but not before they'd been reposted everywhere. Parents on the news called for bans, warning other kids not to be stupid like that boy. But in McKinley Falls, life moved on. Tyler threw another party a few weeks later. Mia stopped talking about it. People unfollowed Nate's account. I visit his grave sometimes. His parents don't speak much, but they always leave a single red rose on the headstone. I bring coffee for his dad, even though he rarely drinks it. No one talks about shadow dose anymore, but sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I find myself scrolling TikTok and stumbling on new challenges, new risks, new dares. And in the comments, there's always someone saying, "Lol, I'm going to try this. I wonder if they'll be next." I was 17 when all of this happened. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't the kind of guy who ever got involved in drama. My life was simple. School, basketball practice, part-time shifts at a smoothie shop, and the occasional late-night scroll on TikTok until my eyes burned. I lived in Willow Creek, a small town where people's lives felt like open books and high school gossip traveled faster than the morning announcements. Back then, I wasn't anyone special. Just Illy, the kid who kept his head down, did his work, and laughed at his friends' dumb jokes in the cafeteria. But that year, one thing changed everything. My TikTok account started blowing up. It wasn't planned. I'd posted a clip of my buddy missing an easy layup in slow motion, paired it with a trending sound, and it accidentally went viral. The comments were hilarious. People started following me for more random moments. And before I knew it, I had 40,000 followers, not huge, but enough for people at school to start looking at me differently, especially the ones who never talked to me before. That's probably why I noticed the first time it happened. It was a cold Thursday morning, and my friends and I were messing around near the East Corridor lockers before first period. The air smelled faintly of burnt toast from the cafeteria, and someone's speaker was blasting a muffled tick-tock sound. We were mid-laugh when a sharp, shrill scream ripped through the hallway. Heads turned instantly, phones came out. A crowd started forming by the vending machines. At first, I thought it was just another dumb prank or someone filming a skit. But then I heard the voice and I recognized it right away. Sabrina James was the school's self-proclaimed queen bee. She was pretty, rich, and terrifying if you were on her bad side. She ruled our hallways like they were her personal runway. When I pushed through the crowd, I saw her standing there in a cream-colored designer jacket, clutching the front of another student's hoodie in a death grip. The other student, Lee. Lee was the quietest girl in our English class. Always sitting in the back, headphones in, sketchbook out, the kind of person people noticed only when they had to. Are you blind or just brain dead? Sabrina's voice dripped venom. Her caramel latte was splattered across her jacket in thick streaks, dripping down onto the tiles. Lee's hands trembled as she stammered. It was an accident. An accident. Sabrina's voice rose like she was performing for the crowd. You ruined my jacket. Do you even own clothes worth more than $10? Oh, wait. Thrift store special, right. Laughter rippled through the bystanders. A couple of kids filmed openly. Lee looked up at her, and for the first time I saw something flash in her eyes, a quick, sharp defiance. At least, She said quietly but clearly, "I don't have to buy my friends to make myself feel important." The crowd let out a collective "oh." Even I winced. Sabrina's jaw clenched. Her hand shot up, ready to slap Lee. Before it could land, I stepped forward and caught her wrist. "Cut it out, Sabrina." My voice was firm, but my heart was racing. She whipped her head toward me. "Seriously, you're taking her side. I'm saying you're making a scene. Let it go." Her nostrils flared. She yanked her arm back, scoffed loud enough for the crowd to hear, and stormed off. The hallway slowly emptied, the buzz of whispers fading. Lee stood frozen, clutching her hoodie. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, still not meeting my eyes. "Thanks for that." That was the first real conversation we'd ever had. Over the next few weeks, we started talking more. It turned out Lee was funny, dry, sarcastic, and brutally honest in a way that caught me off guard. We started hanging out at lunch, sometimes after school. She'd draw in her sketchbook while I filmed dumb TikToks. One Saturday, we went to the pier. We messed around in the waves, filmed a quick TikTok dance, and I posted it without thinking twice. The next day, everything changed. At practice, I spotted Sabrina strutting across the gym floor toward Lee, who was sitting on the bleachers. "You really think you're something now, huh?" Sabrina sneered. Lee raised an eyebrow. "Oh no, my evil plan has been exposed. I befriended Illy just to ruin your life. Stay away from him," Sabrina snapped. "He's mine." "I didn't realize people were property now." Lee shot back. Sabrina lunged forward, but I stepped between them. "What's your problem?" I demanded. Sabrina's face softened suddenly, her tone switching. "Can we talk alone?" Reluctantly, I agreed. As we walked away, she reached for my hand, and I didn't pull away fast enough. Over my shoulder, I caught Lee watching us, expression unreadable. The next day, neither Sabrina nor I showed up to school. That night, Sabrina posted a TikTok. It was her lounging in a private pool. I was beside her. The caption read, "He finally asked me to prom, power couple. Sorry, not sorry." My phone exploded with notifications. Lee didn't text, didn't call. I should have known something was wrong. The night before prom, my phone buzzed. It was Lee. Her voice was shaky. "Illy, I need your help." "What's wrong?" "I sent you my location. Please, just come." My stomach tightened. The pin she sent dropped on an abandoned industrial site outside town. When I got there, the place was silent. The skeletal frame of an unfinished building stood against the night sky, wind whistling through the exposed beams. My flashlight flickered as I stepped over cracked concrete. Then I saw her. Lee was sitting on the ground, back toward me, shoulders shaking. "Lee, what happened?" I asked. She didn't answer. I took a few steps closer, and my light landed on something next to her. Sabrina. She wasn't moving. Her face was pale. Her mouth grotesquely stuffed with crumpled bills and coins. Her eyes were wide, glassy, and unblinking. Her nails were jagged, broken, like she'd clawed at something in her final moments. I stumbled back, gagging. Lee's sobs twisted into laughter. When she turned, her eyes were wet with tears, but her smile was cold. "You see, Illy," she said softly, "she tried to buy you with fake love, so I fed her all the money she could give until she choked on it." My pulse roared in my ears. "Lee, what did you do?" "I made things right." Her head tilted, smile widening. "Now we can be together, free of her poison. Just you and me." My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone and called the cops. The last thing I saw before they dragged her away was her face. Still smiling, still crying, still whispering my name. I never used to care much about social media. I mean, sure, I had the usual stuff, Instagram, a Facebook account I barely touched, but TikTok. For the longest time, I thought it was just teenagers dancing in front of ring lights. I'm 24 now, but last year, when I was 23, I was going through this weird, lonely stretch of my life. I just moved to a new city, Newbrook, Massachusetts, for a graphic design job at a small marketing agency. I didn't know anyone here. The apartment I'd managed to rent was a cramped studio on the third floor of an old brick building that smelled faintly like burnt coffee and damp carpet. The neighbors kept to themselves. The nights felt endless, and in that kind of quiet, you start reaching for things to fill the silence. One Friday night, I was eating takeout Chinese on my couch, scrolling aimlessly through Instagram, when my coworker Lauren texted me. "Lauren, OMG, you have to get on TikTok. The stuff that's on there lately is insane. Me, isn't it just dances? Lauren, no, trust me, it's addictive in the best way. Me, addictive doesn't sound like a good thing, Lauren. Lol, stop being 80, download it." I caved. It took maybe 5 minutes to set up an account. I didn't even bother uploading a profile pic. Just skipped through the prompts and landed on the For You page. At first, yeah, it was exactly what I expected. Dance trends, lip syncs, random prank videos, but TikTok is fast at learning what you watch. Within an hour, my feed shifted. More niche stuff, little art tutorials, cooking hacks, cats doing dumb things. It was fun. That first night, I stayed up until 2:30 a.m. scrolling, and then the next night and the next. About 2 weeks in, the vibe started changing. It wasn't anything obvious at first, just the occasional odd clip in between the usual stuff. A guy sitting completely still in a dark room, staring at the camera. A girl whispering something in a language I didn't recognize, her voice warped and glitchy. Videos that ended abruptly like they'd been cut off mid-sentence. I figured it was just TikTok being weird. People post random artsy, edgy stuff for views all the time. Then I came across her. It was around 1:15 a.m., and I just finished watching a cooking video when the screen faded into a shaky shot of a dimly lit hallway. The camera was low to the ground, maybe waist height, no music, no captions. A woman appeared at the far end, barefoot, wearing a long gray t-shirt. Her hair hung over her face. She walked toward the camera slowly, like she didn't know it was there, or like she knew exactly where it was. When she was maybe halfway down the hall, she stopped, tilted her head, and then in a voice just barely above a whisper, she said, "You're awake too." The video cut to black now. I watch horror movies. I'm not easily rattled, but something about the way she said it, like she was speaking directly to me, made my chest tighten. I scrolled away quickly. I didn't think much more about it until 3 nights later when her video showed up again. Only this time, it wasn't the hallway. She was sitting on a bed in what looked like a small, cluttered bedroom. The same gray t-shirt, same long hair covering most of her face. She was closer to the camera now, sitting cross-legged. "You keep watching," she said, her head twitching slightly. "That's good. I like when they watch again." The video ended without warning. I told myself it was a gimmick, some creator doing a creepy series. I even tried to find her profile, but every time I tapped her username in the corner of the screen, TikTok gave me an error. "User not found," which, okay, whatever, glitch. But then the comments started. I noticed them on other random videos in my feed, not hers, just totally unrelated posts. Things like, "She's closer tonight," "Don't look at her hands," "The hallway's not real." They weren't top comments. You had to scroll down to see them, but once I noticed one, I started seeing them everywhere. And the usernames, they all looked like random strings of numbers and letters, like auto-generated spam accounts. I started getting a little uneasy. One night, I was video calling Lauren while half watching TikTok in the background. I told her about the creepy woman. Lauren laughed. "It's probably just edgy stuff. People love making fake creepy accounts." "Yeah, but I can't even find her profile," I said. "And now there's all these weird comments. Oh my God, you're letting this get to you." She interrupted, still laughing. "Seriously, it's all scripted. I guarantee if you dig a little, you'll find it's some marketing thing for a horror movie." Maybe she was right. I decided to prove it to myself. The 3rd week after I downloaded TikTok, I was up late again, phone balanced on my chest as I lay in bed. The feed felt different. Not the same random mix of funny and cute stuff. 4 videos in a row were grainy, dimly lit clips. Not all the woman, but all with that same eerie tone. Then she appeared again. This time the camera was much closer. Her face took up almost the whole frame. I could see that her skin was pale, almost grayish. Her lips were dry, cracked. Her eyes were wrong, not fully open, but moving, darting like she was watching something over my shoulder. "They're saying your name now," she whispered. "You hear it too, don't you?" The screen stayed black for a good 5 seconds after she stopped speaking. Long enough for me to realize I was hearing something faint through my phone's speaker. A distorted, distant whisper. It sounded like my name. At that point, I shut the app and tossed my phone onto the nightstand. The next morning, when I opened TikTok, my For You page was back to normal. No creepy videos, no strange comments. I tried telling myself it had all been some weird late-night brain fog, that I'd gotten spooked for no reason. It worked until 3 days later when I got a notification. "You have a new follower." At 7K19XXXA. The profile picture was just a blurry close-up of someone's eye and their only video. A shaky clip taken from outside my apartment building. That was the moment I decided to delete TikTok. Or at least I tried to. When I held down the app icon, my phone froze for a full 5 seconds before the delete option appeared. When I tapped it, the screen went black. A woman's voice whispered, clear as day, "You can't scroll away." The app didn't delete. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak in my apartment sounded amplified. I kept my phone face down on the counter, but I swear I heard faint audio playing from it, like a low, rhythmic knocking. By 4:00 a.m., I'd had enough. I powered the phone off completely and shoved it into a kitchen drawer. When I woke up at 9:30, the phone was on. TikTok was open. The woman was sitting on the floor of my apartment. I didn't record it. I didn't move, I just stared. She didn't speak this time, just smiled. A slow, unnatural stretch of her mouth, and then the video ended. I deleted my entire account, uninstalled the app, factory reset the phone. It's been months now. I don't use TikTok. I don't even have social media anymore. But some nights when I'm lying in bed, I'll hear it faint from somewhere in the dark corner of my apartment. A whisper. "You're awake, too." I've never been the kind of person to believe in ghost stories. Not really. Sure, I enjoyed the occasional horror movie night, or binging creepy TikTok compilations with my boyfriend. But deep down, I thought it was all just cheap edits and bored people chasing views. That was before the night last winter that made me stop laughing. It was February in Portland, Oregon, the kind of month where the sky is a dull gray for weeks and the rain soaks into your bones. I was 24, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment on the 5th floor of an old brick building that had been renovated just enough to double the rent without fixing the smell in the hallway. I liked my little place, even with its quirks. The flickering kitchen light, the bathroom fan that screamed like a dying raccoon, and the ancient elevator that took a full minute to close its doors. It was mine. It was affordable, and it was within walking distance to the downtown design studio where I worked. Most nights after work, I'd call my boyfriend Luke on FaceTime. We'd eat dinner together and scroll TikTok, trading whatever weird videos we came across. He was into the paranormal caught on camera clips, doors closing by themselves, shadowy figures caught in mirrors. I'd roll my eyes at most of them. My poison was the bizarre side of TikTok conspiracy theories, deep dives into weird Reddit threads, and creators faking drama for likes. So, yeah, I was skeptical about ghosts until the Sunday night I decided to test it for myself. That night, I'd invited a few friends over, Jenna, Travis, and Alicia. We had pizza boxes stacked on the counter, soda cans everywhere, and Spotify playing low in the background. Around 10:00, Jenna pulled a Ouija board out of her tote bag like she'd been waiting all night for this. "Oh my God," I groaned, "you're not serious." "Dead serious," she said with a grin, pun intended. We cleared the coffee table, lit a couple of candles, and dimmed the lights. I sat across from Travis, our knees almost touching. The planchette was smooth and cold under our fingertips. If there's anyone here, make yourself known, Alicia said, half whisper, half laugh. The planchette slid toward yes. Jenna gasped. I bit back a smirk. You guys are pushing it. I said, we're not. Travis insisted. Halfway through, I got bored. Quietly, I slipped my hands off the planchette and reached for my phone. Morgan, Jenna snapped. You can't just leave in the middle. I'm not leaving. I just want to try something. I said, already opening TikTok. What? This new ghost detector filter? It's supposed to show figures in the camera if there's, activity. Alicia groaned. This is exactly how people get cursed. I pointed the camera around the room. Nothing, no weird shapes, no glowing outlines, just us hunched over the coffee table. When I set the phone down, Jenna muttered that the ghost had stopped responding the second I broke the circle. I laughed it off. By the next night, I'd forgotten all about it. Work had been brutal, and by the time I trudged up the 5 flights of stairs, the elevator was under maintenance again. I was too exhausted to even cook dinner. I kicked off my shoes, tossed my bag onto the couch, and headed for my bed. That's when I saw it. A dark silhouette sitting at the edge of my mattress. Nice try, Luke, I said out loud. The door was locked. The window was shut. No signs of a break-in. Luke had a spare key, and he'd pulled dumb pranks before. This felt like one of them. I flipped the light switch, smirking. The bed was empty. My smile dropped. The light flickered once, twice, and went out. The shadow was back. Only now it was standing, facing me. My breath went shallow. I flipped the switch again and again. Nothing. When the light came back, it was gone. Hey, Luke's voice came through my phone less than a minute later. You home? Yeah, I said, trying to sound normal. Can I come over? What happened? I'll tell you later. 20 minutes. Luke didn't really believe me, but he didn't press it. I stayed at his place that night, curled up on his couch. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was just exhaustion. Maybe my eyes playing tricks on me. When Luke offered to walk me back, I shook my head. If I avoid my place, I'll just freak myself out more. Everything was normal when I got home. No shadows, no weird vibes. I made tea, read a book, and let the day pass. By 11 p.m., I was in bed scrolling TikTok. The room lit only by my phone's glow. My eyes got heavy. When I opened them again, I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis. I'd had it once in college, but not since. At the foot of my bed, the shadow was there again, moving toward me. One slow step, then another. I fought to scream, to move, to do anything. My body refused. The shadow leaned closer, and a loud TikTok video blasted from my phone. The shock snapped me out of it. I sat up gasping, my hands shaking as I grabbed my phone. The ghost detector filter. It was a stupid idea, but I needed to know. I opened TikTok, switched to camera mode, found the filter, and pointed it at my bed. The screen filled with figures, not one, not two, but dozens. At least 20 human-shaped outlines standing throughout my apartment. My breath hitched. I closed the app, reopened it, tried again. The same thing, the lights cut out. Something yanked my hair so hard I screamed. I was dragged across the floor, slammed into the wall. Pain shot through my spine. I scrambled to my feet, flung open the door, and bolted down the stairwell. My socks slipped on the concrete, but I didn't stop until I was pounding on Luke's apartment door. In his bathroom mirror, I saw the damage. A deep, jagged scratch running down my back, shirt torn, skin raw. When Luke got home from his shift and saw it, his face drained of color. We never went back for my stuff alone. He brought 2 friends in daylight to pack my things. They swore the place was ice cold, the air heavy. I've been living with Luke ever since. Weeks have passed. I haven't seen the shadow again, but I can't open TikTok without thinking about that filter. And I haven't used it since. I'd been working as a 9, 111 dispatcher for just under 6 years when the night everything went to hell happened. People have this idea that working in emergency communications means every call is life or death. Sirens blaring, adrenaline pumping like in those TV shows. The truth is maybe 1 in 20 calls are like that. The rest is noise. People reporting suspicious shadows, neighbors complaining about loud music, or drunks who can't figure out how to get home. That night started like a dozen others I'd worked before. I clocked in at 7:00 p.m., coffee in hand, headset in place, and that faint smell of burnt microwave popcorn lingering in the dispatch room. My partner on the next desk, Ryan, was already logged in, feet propped on the cabinet, half watching some YouTube video between calls. We covered the night shift for Bearhamton County, a mostly quiet stretch of mid-sized townships in southern Illinois. Not big enough to have constant emergencies, but big enough that something always came across the board eventually. I'd been trying to cut back on caffeine, but the quiet nights made me restless, and restlessness made me pour another cup. That's when the first odd call came through. 911, what's your emergency? I asked, voice flat from years of routine. A young male voice, maybe late teens, spoke fast, slurring slightly like he'd been crying. They shut it down, sir, slow down. What's shut down? TikTok, it's gone. I can't log in. It says service unavailable. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Sir, this is an emergency line. If no one is injured and no crime is in progress. You don't get it. People are freaking out. My group chat is blowing up like everyone's losing their minds. I gave the standard warning about misuse of emergency services, logged it and moved on. Weird, sure, but not worth thinking about. Except 10 minutes later, another came in, then another, by 8:00 p.m. At least 20 calls had come through, all with the same frantic subject, TikTok being taken away. Some were angry, some sobbing, some disturbingly calm. Ryan spun his chair toward me between calls. Guess some kind of update rolled out or something. Kids are losing their damn minds. I chuckled, but the sheer volume was off. We were used to trends causing small waves, like the year Pokemon Go dropped and people called about trespassers. But this was different. It wasn't just teenagers. I'd logged calls from middle-aged moms, older men, even a teacher who'd given me her full name and school district like I was supposed to escalate her report. By 9:00 p.m., the TV in the break area was playing a news ticker. Supreme Court upholds federal TikTok ban. Access cut nationwide. Ryan whistled low. Well, that explains it. The backstory came together in my head. Congress had been debating this ban for months over data security concerns. Most of us at the station hadn't been paying attention. There were always bigger things in our daily grind, but apparently the decision had gone through that afternoon, and now the servers were dark. I mean, it's just an app, I said, sipping my coffee. Ryan shook his head. Not to some people. For a lot of them, it's their job, or at least they think it is. The calls didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. People weren't just reporting it was gone. They were demanding we do something, begging us to get it back, or threatening vague consequences if we didn't. At 10:12 p.m., I got a call from a woman whispering so quietly I could barely hear her. They're outside, she said. Ma'am, who's outside? My followers, my real ones, they know where I live now. I straightened in my chair. Okay, is anyone trying to break in? Long pause, then in a trembling voice. They keep asking me to go live. They say I can fix this. The line went dead before I could get an address. Something cold crawled up my spine. Ryan must have seen my face. Bad one, yeah, I muttered, then told him. We exchanged a look that neither of us wanted to acknowledge meant, that's not normal. Around 11 p.m., we started hearing banging on the front doors of the building. Dispatch was located inside the Bearhamton Police HQ, a brick one, story block that normally stayed locked at night, except for officers and staff. The banging was rhythmic, heavy. Mike, one of the night shift officers, walked past our room toward the entrance. I stood halfway up. Mike, maybe don't. He waved me off, probably just some drunk. But when the door camera feed popped up on my monitor, my stomach flipped. There were at least a dozen people pressed up against the glass, faces lit by their phone screens, eyes wide and unblinking. A few were live streaming themselves. Others mouthed words at the camera they were holding, but their voices were muffled. And then more started arriving. By midnight, the crowd was 50 strong, all ages, all holding phones. They weren't yelling or chanting, just staring, recording, and occasionally whispering to the glass. I'll admit it, I was scared now. Mike tried the intercom. Stations closed, go home. A young woman at the front of the group smiled so wide it looked painful, then pressed her forehead to the glass. Mike stepped back. That's when the first one hit the door. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet. The others followed, pounding in sync. Our glass was reinforced, but each blow reverberated through the floor. Ryan's phone buzzed. He looked at it, frowned, weird. I'm getting invites to join live streams from people I don't know. I checked mine, same thing, dozens, my screen filled with them, more arriving every second. The pounding grew faster. The glass groaned. Lock down now. I shouted toward the hallway, but before anyone could seal the inner doors, the front glass spiderwebbed and collapsed inward. They poured in, phones up, lights glaring. The mob moved as one, their eyes never leaving their screens. They didn't scream or speak, just advanced on anything that moved. Mike drew his taser, hit one man square in the chest. The man fell, convulsed, and then got up again, grinning, blood trickling from his mouth. I bolted for the back hall, Ryan on my heels. We could hear them behind us, footsteps, the constant electronic chime of going live, and the unsettling sound of dozens of voices whispering the same phrase over and over. Bring it back. We hit the supply room and locked ourselves in, total dark. I could hear my own heartbeat. Ryan whispered, "You think they're normal, just pissed off." I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. Did you see their eyes? We stayed like that for maybe 5 minutes. Then my phone lit up in the dark. A live stream request for my own account. I hadn't started one. Ryan's phone buzzed too. He swore under his breath. The pounding on the door started a moment later. Slow, deliberate. They were here. The pounding wasn't frenzied. It wasn't the mindless battering you'd expect from a mob. It was patient, steady, 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, pause, as though they were letting us know we weren't forgotten. Ryan mouthed, "What the hell do we do?" I didn't know. The room was a glorified closet stacked with spare uniforms, printer paper, and a couple of mops. No windows, one door. If they got through, we were done. My phone vibrated again, another live invite, then another. My notifications bar was a wall of them. Every time I swiped one away, 3 more appeared. My stomach churned when I noticed the thumbnail image on each. The feed wasn't from some stranger's account. It was the view from outside our door. Someone out there was filming us through the seam of the frame. "Ryan," I whispered, "yeah, they can see us." He looked toward the thin line of light under the door. Shadows shifted there. The live feed count on my phone kept ticking upward. Hundreds, then thousands of viewers. A voice came through the stream, not the room. Soft, almost sing. Song, "You can fix this. Let us in." Ryan lost it. He started yelling, cursing them, kicking the door from our side like it would somehow scare them off. It didn't. The knock stopped for a moment. Silence, then faint but growing. The sound of 100 phones all playing the same notification tone at once. They were calling everyone. I grabbed Ryan's arm. "We need another way out." "There isn't one," he hissed. "There's the subway." I said, remembering the maintenance blueprints I'd had to study during training. Old storage leads to the back parking lot. Ryan's eyes darted around. You sure? No, but it's that or wait here. We moved the shelving unit in the back corner, exposing the utility hatch. I pulled it open, the smell of dust and old concrete rushing up to meet us. The ladder descended into near darkness. You first, Ryan muttered. I went down, every creak of the metal step sounding deafening. The basement was colder, the air stale. My flashlight beam cut through rows of forgotten equipment, broken chairs, rusted filing cabinets, boxes labeled with years, old dates. Ryan was halfway down when the door above us burst inward. The sound of feet on tile came instantly after, accompanied by that whispering chorus, "Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, go, go." I urged. We sprinted, weaving through the clutter. The basement exit was at the far end, a heavy steel service door that hadn't been used in years. My heart sank when I saw the padlock. Ryan shoved past me. Move. He dug into a storage bin, came up with an old fire axe. With 3 brutal swings, the lock gave way. We shoved the door open and froze. They were already outside, at least 30 of them standing in the pale glow of the parking lot lights, phones raised, all lenses pointed at us. The front row was smiling. The back row, not so much, faces blank, eyes reflecting the light like animals. We backed up. The door slammed shut, but I knew the old lock was gone. The footsteps above us were quicker now, more chaotic. They'd split, half swarming the main floor, half sealing off the exit. We were trapped in a box. Upstairs, maybe we can. I started, but then we heard it. A scream. It was Mike. It wasn't a quick, shocked yell. It was long, ragged, cut off mid-breath. I felt my stomach twist. Ryan's breathing went shallow. They're killing people. We ran back the way we came, not because it was safer, but because every direction was death anyway. As we reached the ladder, the light from above dimmed. Someone was standing at the hatch, a young woman. She wore a hoodie spattered with blood and held her phone just above her chin. The camera pointed straight at us. Her free hand gripped the ladder's side. She smiled. Say hi to your fans. Then she started climbing down. Ryan didn't hesitate. He swung the axe. It caught her in the shoulder, sending her tumbling back. Her phone clattered against the floor, still streaming. We could hear the chat feed exploding with comments, usernames zipping past like static. I climbed past her, taking the hatch in a single, desperate lunge. The main floor was carnage. Desks overturned, coffee pooled with blood, chairs toppled in hallways. The lobby was strewn with dark smears where people had been dragged, and everywhere phones lying on the floor, in limp hands, mounted on tripods still recording. I tried to move quietly, but every step crunched glass or crumpled paper. From the holding cells came a metallic rattling. I glanced over. One of them was inside. I recognized his face from earlier. He'd been at the door before the break-in. His clothes were torn, his skin pale, lips cracked. "You can still do it," he whispered. "Bring it back, and they'll let you go." I didn't answer. We reached the far hall. The back exit was ahead, past the evidence room. Then the lights went out. The glow of dozens of screens flared in the dark, like fireflies in a cave. Ryan grabbed my arm. Run. We did. I don't remember half of it, just flashes of light, figures lunging, the slap of shoes on tile. We hit the back door and pushed through into the cold night air. No one was there. For a moment, I thought we'd made it. Then my phone buzzed. One notification, no username, no app, just 4 words. "Look behind you now." I turned. They were coming out of the shadows, from between squad cars, from the tree line, from under the cars, phones up. And at the front was Mike, or what was left of him. His uniform was shredded, skin torn, but his mouth was stretched into a grin so wide it didn't look human anymore. He held up his phone, and in a voice like broken glass, he said, "Go live." They rushed us. I ran. I don't know where Ryan went. I just know I ended up in the woods behind the station. My lungs burning, my legs lead. Somewhere behind me, I heard cheering like a crowd at a sports game, and over it all that chant, "Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back." I'm writing this from inside a maintenance shed I found out here. My phone still has signal, but every time I try to call for help, the screen fills with leave invites. I don't think anyone's coming, and I can hear them now just outside tapping their phones waiting for me to open the stream. If you're watching this, don't comment, don't share, don't even let them know you saw it, because once they know you're here, they'll never stop. I never thought posting a 30-second dance video could almost get me killed. When I was little, I was the kind of kid who couldn't stay still when music played. My mom used to joke that I learned to dance before I learned to walk. We weren't a wealthy family. Dad worked at a tire shop. Mom was a cashier at a grocery store in St. Cloud, Minnesota. But on Friday nights, she'd push the coffee table aside in our cramped living room, put on the radio, and we'd dance until our feet ached. By the time I was in high school, dancing wasn't just something I loved. It was my escape. It got me through my parents' divorce, through a breakup that left me ugly crying into a carton of Rocky Road, through long shifts at the diner where I worked to pay for community college. Fast forward to last year, I was 24, living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood with my boyfriend Eric. Things were okay, not perfect. I'd just been laid off from my receptionist job after the company downsized, and the sting of being unemployed while Eric still had his 9-to-5 was eating at me. I spent a lot of days scrolling aimlessly looking for work that never seemed to call me back. That's when I fell into TikTok. At first, it was just harmless fun, quick scrolls between job applications. I'd laugh at silly trends, save recipes I'd never actually try, and eventually stumble on dance videos. Seeing people choreograph in their kitchens or bedrooms brought back something I hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, bored out of my mind, I set my phone against a stack of books, put on a trending song, and recorded myself doing a simple routine I half remembered from high school. I expected nothing, but within an hour my phone was lighting up with notifications, comments, likes, people asking for more. It was a hit. The attention was addictive. For the first time in months, I felt noticed. I started posting more, 2, 3, sometimes 4 videos a week. The numbers climbed. It wasn't massive fame, but enough that strangers recognized me in the grocery store once or twice. Eric was supportive in his own gruff way. "If it makes you happy, do it," he'd say, though I could tell he didn't quite get it. Then came the Thursday that changed everything. It was mid-October. The air had that sharp, dry chill that made the apartment's old heating system kick in with loud groans. I'd set up my phone by the sliding glass door because the late afternoon light made the perfect backdrop. The curtains were half drawn to keep the glare off my face, leaving just a narrow strip open to the outside. I recorded, edited, posted routine. That night, curled on the couch under a blanket with a cup of chamomile tea, I decided to check the comments. Most were the usual, "Love this," "Teach me," but one made my stomach dip. Look at the window. I stared at it for a long moment, frowning. Probably a troll, I thought. Still, my eyes drifted back to my video. I paused it, scrubbed through slowly. At first, I saw nothing. Then, between beats of the song in that tiny strip of open curtain, I caught it. A face, pale, female, just standing there outside my window. I jumped so hard I spilled tea down my hoodie. My pulse thudded in my ears. I told myself it had to be a trick of the light, a weird shadow, a neighbor passing by. But when I rewatched, there was no mistaking it. The face was angled toward me, watching. I texted Eric immediately, "Hey, come home soon. Weird thing in my video. Think someone was outside." He replied, "On my way. Lock the doors." When he got home, I showed him the footage. His face tightened. "That's not a shadow, Leia. That's a person." who just stood there while I danced. We're calling the building manager in the morning, and I'm getting cameras. The next day, Eric installed 2 motion sensor cameras, one by the front door, one facing the balcony where the sliding glass door was. He also replaced the locks. For a while, nothing happened, but every Thursday evening, without fail, someone commented about the window. Sometimes it was, "She's back," or "Creepy lady again." I checked, and sure enough, the same pale face appeared in the background, always Thursdays, always in that same strip of open curtain. It became an obsession. I tried filming in other rooms, but the engagement dropped, and part of me, stupidly, didn't want to give up the spotlight. By late November, I was sleeping poorly. I'd wake at every creak. I kept my phone